I'm glad you joined us here for a full review of the Audi Q3 Sportback. Is it just a cut-off Q3 or what is it? Here on Autogefuehl, your number one resource for in-depth car reviews and your number one community to discuss cars. With Thomas, we're going to take you on a tour on the exterior, interior, and today a very fun driving experience here in the Black Forest. It will be really amazing, I can promise you. Please subscribe if you haven't done so far. And now join us in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. In the front, Q3 and Q3 Sportback are somewhat similar indeed, with this huge front grille, but very, big stance on the road. Here the S-Line package with a lot of sporty contrast, lower part, and also those silver contrast right there. So beautiful job, I think. And also has those special bright accentuations inside the honeycomb structure of the front grille. Turbo blue, yes, great color here for today. A real Thomas blue, a bright, strong blue, as we call it here on Autogefuehl. Then those headlamps, they come LED as standard. Different trims available. The second trim already offers those turning indicators, which are in this cascading style. And those ones here are the optional matrix LED. Other than that, you see here the front accentuations right there. So S-Line package, as I said, overall a very, very sporty stance already for a small SUV. 4 meters 50, 14 foot 8 or 177 inches is the length of the Q3 Sportback. That's 2 centimeters longer than the normal Q3, which, continues like that. But that's just, overhang from the spoilers. But it looks a little bit longer because it's a little bit flatter. So about 3 centimeters flatter here in this whole roofline. And then of course, it's falling down right there even more, like all those SUV coupes as they are called. 17 to maximum 20-inch wheels. Those ones are the biggest 20-inch wheels. Then with those contrasting wheel arches, but there's not black plastic. You could see it's also painted then in black. Very interesting. S-Line badge. Then wow, this turbo blue color looks amazing. And this one here also has this sporty stance right there. If you compare it to the normal, the mobile phone is still in the vehicle, the car says on the inside, because I closed the car here with keyless entry. That way you open it again. So I think a very beautiful stance on the road here. I think it works quite well. It's not too dramatic. But then here, those stronger shoulders, very interesting. And always some information about the suspension. You start with a sport suspension actually with the Q3 Sportback, but then you can opt in, just without extra price, to the normal suspension, which we could recommend. Or if you can spend the money to the adaptive suspension, then you have a little bit more variety and comfort. We also have that today to test for you. I definitely wanted to show you the 3/4 rear perspective. This is really impressive. And I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of SUV coupes or those cut-off SUVs, but I think in this case it really works very well design-wise. Or what's your take on that? Also with the S-Line, again, sporty accentuations, especially right here with this diffuser style and very modern LED signature in the rear. And by the way, talking about braking, the autonomous emergency brake is standard equipment, and then optional more assistance systems like the ACC, adaptive cruise control, and also blind spot monitor and so on. We'll also test those systems here today in the driving test. And the straight rear perspective for you, definitely this is design object, so the main reason to go for the Q3 Sportback and not for the normal Q3 is design. Yes, everyone knows there will be a little bit less space on the interior. How much? We will soon find out. And by the way, the 35 TFSI 35, it stands for nothing. They just put those levels. Of course, higher numbers means more power and lower. But it doesn't make any logical sense. And I'm always confused myself. And here in our long format, we always like to show you different variations, different colors. Here, this one is called Myth Black or Mythos Schwarz. That would be the one in German. And this here also together with this first edition that you also have the black Audi rings and the black accentuations. Overall, really a dark style. And especially here in this rear three-quarter perspective, it looks really menacing here as the Q3 Sportback. This one also with 20-inch wheels, but in a different style. So, what would be your pick as for the color? For me, of course, the turbo blue. And we also have two more colors in our studio episode. The orange one and the white car. So if you're even more interested in colors and trims, we will always link interesting other or fitting episodes in the video description and in the pinned comment. So if you're finished with this review here, also tune in to more. And this one here, by the way, is the 45 TFSI, so this is the strongest petrol engine so far, also with all-wheel drive. We will also compare this one to the smaller 1.5 liter petrol engine today here. So first the small petrol engine, later the bigger one. And what we can also see at the rear, this one is the first new Audi without any fake exhaust. You got this diffuser style here with the S-line, but there are no fake exhaust anymore. So big step forward, and I think everyone here agrees that fake exhaust are not really, a good thing. So here, a rather clean design, I think. Thumbs up. All four-cylinder engines here, and front-wheel drive for the smaller ones, all-wheel drive for the bigger ones. Look at that one here. This one is the new 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine with 150 horsepower and a mild hybrid system. So coasting or sailing between 40 and 160 kilometers an hour, for example, and an electric boost, 10 seconds, 12 horsepower. Very interesting. 6-speed manual gearbox, front-wheel drive, or optional the 7-speed DSG, the S-Tronic. Then there is a 2-liter turbo petrol engine with 190 horsepower or 230. Had the 230 one all with the Q3 review, check out that one. Always made it to a 7-speed DCT or S-Tronic as they call it, and all-wheel drive. And then a diesel 2-liter, 2 horsepower specs, 150 or 190. And then also the first one with manual and the other one then with the S-Tronic and also AWD or front-wheel drive. Well, not too complicated, this engine lineup, pretty clean, this whole engine bay. Will this mild hybrid system work? I'm not sure, but we will test it. With the big turbo petrol engine, we had about 9 liters of fuel consumption with the Q3 now. That was too high. But this one here today? Let's see. This is the car key. Nothing new there. Door closing sound. Nice, as Brian would say. Best greetings to our reporter, Brian. So here, let's say a little bit of soft touch. It's not super hard pack, but it's not soft as well. It's like something in between. But this is nice. This reverse door handle. It's actually also quite practical. Then nice quality also from the window levers. And nice Alcantara inserts right there. Huge inner door pockets. This is very practical. Optional Bang & Olufsen sound system. It's really worth it in this case. It's a great optional sound system. We really love the sound. S-Line entry badge in the lower part. Then here, because we also have the S-Line interior. Then soon more to all the digital instruments and so on. This one is a sporty steering wheel with a flat bottom. Then a lot of black piano lacquer is being used. That they are not, my favorite, but can't be everything in my favorite. Also not those animal skin seats. They cost a lot of extra money and really warm in summer times and cold in winter times. But I can tell you, there are, at least in Europe, fabric seats available. both in normal form, and then this one is a sport seat, so 2 seat forms, normal and sport seats. And for both, you can get it all in fabric. And for this seat, you could also get more Alcantara. It's a mixing of Alcantara, leatherette, and some animal parts. But this one here is the one with most animal parts. But overall, Audi here in the Q3 and Q3 Sportback already reduced the amounts of animal skin parts. Recently seen also the Porsche Taycan review, where they also have one animal-free interior. So even if some people still criticize me for feeling with animals, sorry, it's coming. So then you can put the steering wheel in and out and up and down. And a nice cozy position here. So it's not a super high SUV, but also not a somewhat more low crossover, something in between. 1.86 or 6'1", and without the panoramic roof, you can get a lot of headroom right there. So you can get a cozy seating position here. Also as a tall driver, this front part here is manually, just longer or shorter, and here also electric seats. But again, one problem is so many options, so many extras. Configuring this car is pain in the and the price always goes up. By the way, the Sportback here is about 2,500 euros more expensive than normal Q3. It has some more extra or like standard equipment than the other one, but still it will be a little bit more expensive. Interior overview. First of all, a very clean layout and interesting here with the Alcantara dash and an additional Audi logo. Yeah, a lot of black panel lacquer here again. You have to clean this all over the place, definitely. And the sporty steering wheel, but could be a little bit smaller, maybe. Right side for the volume control, left side to control the digital instruments right there. By the way, if you see the check engine light, that's always the case when the ignition is on. It will just fade out when you turn on the engine actually. Soft touch here at the top of the dashboard, and then there will be different screen layouts available. It starts here with 8.8, a smaller one. Optional this, 10.1 inch. And on the left side, always digital instruments, but it starts with a 10.25 inch and then optional 12.3 inch. Come on, why don't you just put this one and that's it? 2 different sizes of digital instruments? Seriously? Yeah. But soon more deals to this top setup. Here, this one here still has my favorite climate unit. Clicking sound and nice LED visualization, and easy to control it while driving, and a volume knob in the lower part. Drive select right here. Soon talking more about the drive modes. And the lower part, you have an inductive charging pad. That's cool because you now also have wireless Apple CarPlay. Still also available with cable connection. For example, right side here, USB-C now, and the classic USB, both are available in the front. Then you have the automatic shifting lever. Below that, adaptive cup holders, they do a good job. And then there's this armrest, which is well attached, and some more space underneath. So overall, the offering of space in the interior in the front here is quite good. And those top virtual instruments, you can change the view, have the full GPS map, or have more of your driving data and so on. Then you can also have the music info right there, or the consumption figure. And this one is the highest one with bending corners. It will be rather lower towards 6 liters or 100 kilometers if you really want to drive more efficient. So you can get to a 40s MPG region also with this engine. So virtual cockpit here, they are among the best in the segment, I think. So a really good job, crystal clear to read, and they just look great and also flexible as what you want to show. This whole middle console area is, by the way, turned about 10 degrees to the driver. Then now deals to the infotainment system. This is the home menu, all via touch, and there's just the touch control indeed. You can connect your phone via Bluetooth or here the Apple CarPlay. In this case, I've already connected this wirelessly, and Android Auto is also available. And here, nice integration. They use all of the screen. And yeah, again, this sound system, the Bang & Olufsen sound system, is really cool. Nice song, by the way. It has a very great 3D surround sound, so excellent for a small vehicle. Pretty cool. Then back to the MMI. Of course, we want to take a look at the GPS, which has a nice CPU, so fast enough. We've seen it nowadays already a little bit faster, yes, but I think also the visual character of it, You can very well see where you're heading to. And controlling it while driving is also, let's say, somewhat okay. Overall, I'm quite happy with the infotainment system. Everything is clear to read, and the whole menu is also pretty easy, so quite intuitive where you find something. Also when you, for example, change display brightness or something like that. So everything, and also this feedback, by the way. You hear those clicking sounds, you can also turn it off or leave it on. And of course you can also get a rear view camera right there with a very nice resolution, and there's also this fake drone view from above, including the front camera and also the side cameras here at the mirrors, so that's definitely a good option. And one of my favorite details is always a frameless top mirror. It's always just elegant, and at the same time it gives you a good view to the rear. So now to the rear door, and well, in the front there weren't too many differences. The rear, by the way, hardback top part and Alcantara inserts here, and reasonable door space also. And we have somewhat the same styling here in the rear. You can always see they have a little bit less legroom than in the normal Q3. The difference is that the rear bench can be moved front and the back 15 centimeters in normal Q3 and 13 centimeters right here. So again, you lose 2 centimeters of legroom. And that means that, I mean, it directly fits here with 4 tall adults. With the normal new Q3, it was, like definitely more roomish. Yeah, maybe I could move the seat a little bit more forward. I could still drive like this or something. It's okay. You can still use this car very well. At the moment the bench is all the way back, but you can also slide it forward like this in a 2/3, 1/3 split. And it was also quite cool. Here you can vary the angle of the seat right there. So why can it be slid all the way back? Yeah, because of the falling roofline, because everyone would hit the ceiling with the head. And here at the moment like this, it's still okay. It directly fits. So yes, you can still use this car. There's no problem. But of course you lose, this is the space where you lose some of the practicability. But overall, the seating position in the rear is still decently comfortable. With those latches, by the way, you can also completely flip the seats from here. Push it back. Isofix is at the outside of those seats each. Then we have those cup holders, which also are somewhat adaptive in the middle part. And the ski hatch. Yes, there we go. Press this one here and then like this. And yeah, it gets a little bit squeezed in right there. There's a middle tunnel, and then you have some climate unit here, but nothing to adjust that much. 12-volt power supply in the lower part, and yeah, pretty dark in there now. 2 more USB-C devices. Well, some disadvantages in the rear compartment, but what about the trunk? Well, first of all, the trunk liter capacity is 530 liters. That's identical to the one of the non-Sportback Q3. The reason is it's measured below this cover here, and you lose the height above the cover. Yeah, so that only plays a role if you really stack it up all the way to the window, maybe for going on holiday with the whole family. Then of course the normal Q3 is better, and the full with flipped seats capacity, there you have a difference of 1,400 to 1,525 liter in the normal Q3. So that's the difference then. Got some luggage set up here for you. They can still see how it fits, but I can also put it out that you have a clear view then. Like this, there is this net available. You can also put it out, but you can secure things underneath. Here, then you have the sound system underneath, or if you don't have the sound system, you could also put a replacement tire if you like. And flipping the seat is not possible from here. I'll soon go all the way around. The normal length here is 93 centimeters, 94 centimeters, and the width about, a little bit less than a meter actually. And below this cover you have a height of a little bit less than 40 centimeters. Well, and now I have to go around to use those latches. I could, by the way, also move the whole thing forward. So this one would be, the maximum. And then you can see, there's a gap then here. But when you need a little bit longer trunk at some point, other than that, when you flip the seats, of course, better leave it like this. I have to go all the way around to the other side. Yeah, that takes a while here in this vehicle. And then we can have the full flip like this. Yeah, I can push this one here a little bit further down. With electric seats, you don't have the possibility to flip the co-driver seat. So, and then, oh, some motorcyclists on the way now, beautiful roads. And then we got here, yes, thank you for the exhaust, thank you. Okay, now you can hear me again, or not. Come on, seriously? Yeah, about that. 1.70 meters, you've already seen it. And interior variation for you can see the Alcantara can also be bought in blue. And I really love it, looks so amazing. I'm just not sure yet, in contrast to the whole black interior, I mean, you got it here as well, and there on the top of the, this middle dashboard, so to say, and also at the other side. What do you think about it? So I love this blue Alcantara, but I'm not quite sure yet if it's really, if it's too big of a contrast to the all-black car. Maybe it would have been better if, you got more gray elements. And we had so many questions in our initial static review. Does the Q3 Sportback also offer a panoramic roof? Yes, it does. This one here is a vehicle with one. You have this shade right there. It's a little bit shorter than in the Q3 SUV here in the Sportback. Here you can open it, and it's not only a panoramic glass roof, you can also open it like this. So let's see, how far does it open? There we go, that's it. Again, it's shorter than in the Q3 SUV. And of course, it reduces the head clearance already in the front. Here with 1.86 or 6.1, I still have some headroom left, yes, but it's definitely way less than if we would not have it. But how does it look like in the rear? Due to this falling roofline, it looks a little bit disturbing from the outside when a panoramic glass roof is opened, doesn't it? And then the blue Alcantara is also at the inside of the rear doors. And now let's see if we get here in the rear. What about the head clearance? So you see, it does end already right here. So indeed, it doesn't make a big difference than in the rear headroom. It's again close as in the other version, but yeah, you can surely do that. So it would be more of a problem if we would be continued all the way. But probably all the designers or engineers said, yeah, if we would continue that one all the way, first of all, it's too curved, this roof, and then it would not be possible to sit here in the rear with the head clearance. So yeah, it's surely an option you can go for. Again, it looks really strange from the exterior then when it's open, but it might be a lot of fun to drive with it with open top. But always remind yourself, such a panoramic roof is also let's say, a weak part with the car, as insulation, water, noises, rattling noises. I remember owning a car with a panoramic roof, and after a while it got some rattling noises, and then you have maybe apply some lubricants or something that they work again. Yeah, but on the other hand, I really enjoy open top driving, especially convertibles, and that's then sometimes a compromise when you cannot go for a convertible but still want some fresh air. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Audi Q3 Sportback, here with the 1.5 liter TSI turbo petrol engine, 7-speed dual clutch transmission. S-Tronic is their brand name for that. Alternatively, it would be a 6-speed manual gearbox, and since we are in those winding mountain corners here, we put the dynamic mode. Then the RPMs go a little bit higher. The car keeps in a rather lower gears, and we have a sportier driving fun. We have the adaptive suspension here. Remember, the sport suspension would be standard for the Q3 Sportback, but you can easily opt for the normal suspension without any extra costs. And then optional, the adaptive suspension, which is, again, adapting to the settings you have and also constantly adapting even inside those settings. And this makes a wider span of comfort and sportiness at the same time. So here in the sports mode, we have a little bit more feedback from suspension. That's good here because the roads are very well paved here at the moment. So there are, no comfort losses in this case. Then, of course, you will lose some comfort then in the sports mode when there are some bumps in the road. And the big wheels here on the car, yeah, for sporty driving, they're quite cool now. But if you want more comfort, you would also go for smaller ones. And the car feels very well balanced also, very well to control. So that's pretty cool. Now we go a little bit slower, soon we go a little bit faster again. You see also I don't have to steer that much, so this steering is very progressive, as we say here. So the more you steer, the more input there is also, and then you can keep both hands at the steering wheel all the time, especially, you know, this progressive steering together with the adaptive suspension. So now a little bit faster in acceleration. This 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine is also enough as for the performance. Now we're going a little bit faster in the corner here. Wow, that feels very nice. Pretty cool. Look at that. So how stable the car remains, and we're still talking about the SUV segment here, or at least crossover, and this is giving me fantastic feedback, fantastic feeling from the steering, and also the lane assist is not intervening. We recently had that, for example, in the Skoda Kamiq, which is of course a little bit smaller, but we had to deactivate the lane assistant when we were doing those winding corners. But here actually it maybe realizes what we're doing, and so it's not intervening at all at the moment. It's also deactivating itself partly, and wow, I'm almost feeling like we are on the Nordschleife. I'm not, you know, exceeding any speed limit here, but that feels fantastic. And I would buy such a vehicle when I want more comfort, more or higher seating position and so on, and that's the case here indeed with the car. But at the same time, sometimes you lose driving fun, and maybe like sporty driving fun with the SUVs, but here not at all. So we're in the Black Forest region here for you today, Schwarzwald, the famous German Schwarzwald, and actually the opposite side than we were in the in the area in France. So very interesting also geologically. Got to look up the history, like 65 million years ago. There was, everything went down and there was erosion on both sides, so it was almost 4,000 meters high, and now today it's 1,000 meters because there was like millions of years of erosion. Pretty interesting geological story here, and this is just a fantastic ride. Here now the road gets a little bit rougher. In the sports mode we also feel that a little bit more, but still pretty cool. And again, enough power, although also we are going uphill all the time. There is also this electric boost function from this small generator, about 12 horsepower, when I'm really throwing it out. But I mean, it's not that you would directly realize it. Now also this recuperation function that is possible, also not that you directly realize that. Soon after this dynamic part, we'll also take this car out a little bit more on, you know, some more calmer roads and more everyday driving life experience and so on. So I can tell you more about that. At the moment, rather the fun, agile driving. And is there any difference, the Q3 and Q3 Sportback? As for that, not really. It depends on the suspension you pick. That's, you know, making most difference. Wow, look at, you know, I can really just, you know, when it's 90 degrees corner, I need to turn the steering wheel 90 degrees. That's fantastic. So what a great driving experience here. So much fun to drive this car. And I mean, it's a still, yes, it's a premium car and it's not cheap at all, but still segment-wise. Now, if you think about other premium vehicles which are way more expensive, this one is still one you can use everyday driving life. As for the flexibility you have, and it's really a lot of fun. So good suspension feedback, nice steering. This is really a very flawless experience. The sport seats are also keeping us tight. It's good that we have a little bit more support. It would be even better if those were the the fabric or Alcantara surfaces, because here on the animal skin you slide around a little bit more. Wow. I could keep you on camera here, guys, all day, especially on those beautiful roads here. I hope you're really enjoying that together with me as we do. Olga, how are you feeling?
Yeah, fine.
Olga is good. That's always a good sign, and always asking my co-driver. And you know, we always call the guy next to me co-driver, because that's rally style, you know. So yeah, way to go. So much fun. Yeah, I wouldn't have expected it in a Q3 SUV. I mean, yes, we have driven the Q3 SUV before, then here the Sportback. Again, similar. Of course, you maybe somehow feel a little bit sportier because you just know, like from the design exterior-wise. And yes, the roofline is a little bit lower, so maybe that's a very subtle, subjective feeling that accounts for that. And of course, wow, this turbo blue. I mean, when you look at that, you see it in the mirrors. When you look to the front, on the front hood, you see that it has this turbo blue color. Or maybe this screen is flickering, by the way, in the camera. I'm not sure. Put that off now. So it's not flickering in real life. Again, this one is just flickering on camera then maybe. Wow. By the way, the brakes now, so going from 90 to 60. Not really hammering it through, but just, that was already 40. So good braking performance, even downhill. And again, this car gives you such a controlled handling experience. We know the platform already from the Volkswagen AG. It is very well known. But it really gives you a great balance. And well, if you have an all-wheel drive version of the Q3 or Q3 Sportback, also doesn't change too much. It's more that the higher horsepower figures are usually combined then with automatic gearbox and all-wheel drive, and the lower horsepower figures are not. And then it's a front-wheel drive platform, of course. This doesn't make the biggest difference. When it's maybe slippery on winter times, you might need an all-wheel drive version, but that shouldn't be the main deciding factor when doing your purchase. This 1.5 definitely interesting with the new MHEV technology and also sufficient power. Of course, doesn't mean that you have to go for this one, not for the 2-liter one. But sticking with the little bit smaller engines also saves you some money in the entry price. So I think, in this turbo blue exterior with the 1.5 petrol, that should be a pretty decent pick for this car. Against some slalom. Holger's like, meh. But it's still quite okay, especially in dynamic mode. If we would compare that here to the normal auto mode, for example, let's see how that one plays out. Yeah, maybe shakes a little bit more, but still, even in the normal auto mode, you can drive this vehicle very well also in a dynamic fashion. So the first sporty dynamic impression here from driving, also for this segment, it's fantastic. And I would even say that this is, definitely segment leading. Maybe together with one or two other cars or so on. We had a great driving experience in the BMW X2 M35i. Yeah, that's a little bit complicated as for name. That was also pretty amazing as for driving experience, for example. So you should also check out that review, definitely. So the X2 was also great in driving, especially also with the adaptive suspension. They are even more that the pure sport suspension is too stiff. But here again, such a flawless experience with this vehicle.
I feel always safe.
Yeah, Holger feels safe, and that's, of course, as a co-driver, the most important thing. I can always hold onto the steering wheel. I know where the road is going. I feel it before, and when the co-driver feels safe, then that's an even better sign. Welcome to the motorway. Blind spot monitor here. See, when I'm using the turning indicator, it was also flashing. Of course, they have the light when the car's approaching from the rear, from the blind spot, and then even more flashing when you hit the turning indicator. So it's a definitely good safety feature, and would also be one of my favorites from this option list. I can show you it once more. Again, just flashes constantly, and as soon as I would put the turning, a little bit too late now. When I put the turning indicator, then it's like flashing very fastly. Now to some everyday driving situations. So here at the moment, I'll accelerate out to 100 kilometers. And then I'll also set the cruise control. See a separate stalk column left next to the steering wheel. At 100 kilometers or 60 miles an hour, sound insulation is quite decent, so remain very calm and silent. The adaptive suspension is doing a great job of, really keeping this car steady, so it's sporty enough, but at the same time very comfortable. If you would go here to the sports mode, then you would have actually less comfort. You feel some damages in the road a little bit more and so on. The sports mode definitely was more helpful in those winding corners earlier. Here just keep it with the auto or comfort. so that's definitely cozy. And what's also cool, when you set the cruise control and also have the lane assistant activated, so this is the highest build we have here for that, it feels very natural. There's not much annoying intervention. We sometimes have those situations where you have very annoying intervention by those lane assist systems, but not the case here. And if I tend to run off the road here, see here, car is very smoothly keeping me in the lane. Don't try this at home, kids, please. So just demo purposes here. So that was a very smooth reaction, better than the braking intervention like we know from some Mercedes models. And wow, really impressive. Traffic sign recognition also. Then the ACC can also adapt to that, for example. Let's see if the ACC does it now, but maybe it's not the highest build as for that. But overall, very convincing as for the assistant systems. Now it's showing me 70, and there's also the next speed camera approaching. And what's also very interesting, since we have those new mild hybrid systems that are evolving, this one here, the MHEV in the 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine, let's go to the efficiency mode, because that makes it easier for us to trigger that mode. It does not work really when being in the cruise control mode, so you have to go out of the cruise control with short braking maneuver or something. Put it a little bit bigger, and then when I'm here then in the efficiency mode and then I let off the throttle, I see the RPM drops to 0. So just rolling and coasting now. And this can save some fuel, but of course only when it makes sense. Here, when I want to keep the speed anyways, it doesn't make any sense. But if you see like ahead there's like a traffic jam coming or something, or I'm going downhill for a longer time, and I don't want to increase the speed really, well, now maybe it could be a situation. So it runs between 40 and 160 kilometers for this, MHEV coasting here, for example. Now I see it's a new traffic sign. We're also going downhill. I don't need any acceleration. Then you can, and this MHEV system then, the small battery, keeps all the electric consumers running, and those cars are rolling computers, meanwhile they need a lot of electricity for whatever, also AC and so on. So this is an interesting solution. It does save 0.5 liters on 100 kilometers on paper. Will it have the very same effect in the real driving life? Not so sure about that, but what we can say is that the overall fuel consumption is somewhat decent here. Maybe because of the system, maybe not, or maybe because the engine itself is quite efficient. About 6 liters in 100 kilometers, and when you are then in those, about 40 mpg range, this is actually quite good for a car of that size and the weight and the flexibility and so on. So actually quite satisfied with that, and I think then it also doesn't make sense to go for the more expensive diesel. Maybe depends on the market, yes, but I think this fuel consumption is low enough then, especially then here with the new MHEV system, which is exclusive so far in the Q3 and Q3 Sportback with the 1.5 turbo. Very interesting. And then of course you also have this overboost or special boost function, 12 horsepower for about 10 seconds. We can try that once more here. For example, we go back to the dynamic mode, and then there's also a gear lower. Of course, we could also take an even lower gear, for example, but let's see how the kickdown works here from 50 to 100. That's it. Yeah, maybe I was a little bit too early because the instruments were lagging a little bit behind, but yeah, it almost came close. So 50 to 100 and still quite decent. So of course you don't have like a super big acceleration or something because it's a small engine, but still totally sufficient as for the power for this one. The steering here is again quite progressive, as I told you in the more agile driving part. And indeed it proves my point also, this vehicle is something for every situation, it's not too big. You can still use it in the city for finding parking spots. But it's not too small. You can still fit, luggage inside. Even here in the Sportback version, where you just have a little bit less leg room, it drives definitely similar. Q3 and Q3 Sportback, there's no big difference. It's the same wheelbase. It's more about the suspension you pick, and this adaptive suspension, definitely a recommendation if you have the extra money for that. Otherwise, stay with a base suspension, because the sport suspension is too stiff for everyday driving life, unless you really, really want that. Wheels, I do feel we have the biggest wheels mounted here. So if you want more comfort, go for smaller wheels. So the question then visuals on the outside and the comfort you have then on the inside. So the adaptive suspension is evening that out a little bit, yes. But again, you will have more comfort if you go for some smaller wheels, definitely. But overall, I mean, you're just also in a normal mode. Good slalom character for this vehicle. It just feels agile at any time and comfortable enough at any time. So this is a great compromise as for this one. Here in the auto mode, you see we don't drop in the RPMs, but as soon as I go to the efficiency mode and let the car roll or something, in the very braking maneuver, but usually in the efficiency mode, that drops into 0 and you can just use this rolling or coasting function. So you can definitely play around with those driving modes. Yeah. So, very convincing in all the different aspects. Also how the ACC acts again, and of course also, with the blind spot monitor, of course, which, is appearing then here in the mirror. So very good assistance systems available also for this car. And now, as a comparison, the so far top petrol engine for this normal Q3 or Q3 Sportback lineup, the 45 TFSI. This one's a 2-liter turbo petrol engine, here then with 230 horsepower and all-wheel drive. So the one we driven before, less displacement, but with the MHEV, with this electric boost, and also with the better little bit of recuperation, better sailing coasting function. And front-wheel drive, and this one then all-wheel drive and more power under the hood. So all-wheel drive will make sense again in, let's say, harsh conditions or so, alpine regions. And that you can also just live with the front-wheel drive. This car will never have any rear-wheel bias, even in this all-wheel drive. It's front plus rear on demand. So when you have it like steady, slow speeds and so on, it will still be most front-wheel based. Here, even in the all-wheel drive version, then the more you apply the throttle, the more power will be transported to the rear wheels. And we can also show you some acceleration difference here. We can go to the dynamic mode. And we're also in this S-shifting mode, and we accelerate now from 80 to 120. Plop, that's it. So yes, that definitely goes quicker here in this one, so you definitely have more power, no wonder about that. However, I have to say, we also had a lot of fun with the smaller engine, because the main fun factor about this car here is actually the agility in driving. And that's the same setup here today for both cars, 20-inch wheels together with the adaptive suspension. Again, me and also some colleagues here on location, we were pretty much agreeing that 18 or 19-inch is still a good compromise. You have great visual, and I would probably go for 18-inch. You have more comfort, but still a nice visual. And if you want better visual, then 19-inch, it's still a little bit more comfort than those 20-inch wheels. Yeah, and I think this 1.5-liter turbo petrol engine was very interesting to drive as well. Here now, of course, on the motorway, when you have some acceleration time and possibility, here also at higher. Sounds a little bit more aggressive also. Yeah, just, you're definitely way quicker on the motorway. In the city, it won't play such a big role between those two engines, but definitely here on the motorway. So if you're driving on the motorway frequently and have also some, frequent overtaking maneuvers, then this 2-liter TFSI, especially in the top horsepower spec, will have an advantage for you. But you've also seen that it still works with a smaller engine, because you can use that turbo, and together with the MHEV system you can especially save some fuel if you rather keep it steady. So we have driven this one here already in the normal Q3 and scored some fuel consumption of about 9 liters in 100 kilometers. I'll reset it here now and see what we can score when we keep it steady here at cruise control at about 120 kilometers an hour. Another cruise control test here as well. So that system is working really very nicely. By the way, controlling the mirrors here with the electric functions, also flawlessly done. That's pretty cool. AEB, the autonomous emergency brake, is standard equipment with this car, and then the ACC and also the blind spot monitor, that's an option. So if you just let it roll here on the motorway, then you can also score some very quite low consumption figures, but not as low as with the other smaller engine. And then again, the consumption will raise if you hammer it a little bit more. So the question is then, do you want to pay more money for the more powerful engine, and you will pay more money in the long run because of the higher fuel consumption? Here at the moment, still about 8 liters per 1 kilometers, although I have reset it and set cruise control, so we definitely see a significant difference in the fuel consumption figure. Really depends on the use. For most usages, I think I would recommend this new MF engine. It was pretty cool, and we also had it now at a very early stage, definitely. I really have to say I like the blue Alcantara here, I mentioned earlier, and it brings some joy in the interior. I was thinking a little bit about the contrast definitely to the all-black interior. I would have found it a little bit more beautiful if they would use some gray colors, that it's not that harsh for a contrast, and gray fits better to blue than black to blue, I think. But other than that, I think it brings a lot of joy. So why not? I think the consumption won't drop below that. So very interesting. There's such a significant difference. Sometimes those bigger displacement engines are not necessarily worse as for the fuel consumption, but in this case, that's really the case. So, and now back to our motorway ride with a little bit more power. So see once more here the turning indicator, and then also flashes. So again, what a convincing ride from both engines, definitely, but the 1.5 definitely the more interesting engine today, I think. Now a little bit higher speed, and didn't talk about the fuel, the noise insulation when we are at really high speeds, and now let's pick it up a little bit, and we're now at 150 kilometers an hour approximately, and that's still decently silent. I mean, it's an SUV, so you stand a little bit against the wind, but it's still in a good level. It's not what I would say it's the most silent ride ever, but considering we are about 150 kilometers an hour now, I think that's quite acceptable. So, what do you think? Which engine would you actually go for? Here now, I mean, you're at higher speeds and then you hit the throttle and there's still something coming. Yeah, so if you're a high-speed junkie, then of course this one will play an effect for you. Other than that, I think for the majority of customers, the 1.5 will be a very interesting choice. And now to our conclusion for today with the Audi Q3 Sportback. Exterior design, yes, definitely sportier than the normal Q3, and also inside this segment, a really sporty and likable design, so with this little bit flatter roofline and so on, and especially here in the S-line and those big wheels, it looks really sporty. Always have to think about that the bigger wheels, of course, cost you some comfort. But overall, especially with the adaptive suspension, such a smooth ride, both very comfortable and very surprisingly sporty here in those winding corners. So just a flawless job in the driving part, among the best in segment. Interior also with the high quality. There are also non-animal skin choices available which are also doing a great job. So you have a choice right here. Also interesting Alcantara accentuations. A little bit more daring, this interior concept. You lose a little bit of practicability if you compare it to the normal Q3. It's a little bit less legroom, but still it's a quite versatile car overall. If you see that, you can still use it as a primary vehicle in your everyday driving life, so that still works very well. Well, and then overall about this MHEV system here, the turbo petrol engine, yeah, you can get it low to 6 liters on 1 kilometers, that's good. And if you like really hammer it in those winding corners, we got maximum of about 9 liters, but still that's a very acceptable figure than at least the lower one, of course. So a very interesting concept and a car where, most people can do something with. Not too big, not too small, comfortable enough, surprisingly sporty. Yeah, so overall, very good rating we can give here about the Audi Q3 Sportback. I hope you really enjoyed this episode here today. And, as always with most of the Audi cars, yeah, when it comes to pricing, That's definitely the biggest downside. So what's your take? What's your feedback? Please leave me in the comments and also join us next time.